Hello people and welcome to Module 10. In this video we're going to be creating a script that checks whether an IP address has been reported for abuse using a public API, Abuse IPDB. Abuse IPDB is a threat intelligence platform. It collects reports of malicious behavior such as port scanning, brute force attempts, spam submitted by network administrators or just users around the world. By checking an IP address against Abuse IPDB, we'll get a score from 0 to 100 based on how often and how recently that IP has been reported. So, just to let you know, an API is short for an application programming interface, and it basically just lets two programs talk to each other. In this case, this bash script that we're going to create will send a request to Abuse IPDB's API, and it will return a structured response, specifically a JSON object that will contain details about the IP, and we will be parsing that output as well. So, before we begin, it's important that you have curl and JQ installed, as we'll be using it. So you're going to want to run sudo apt update, sudo apt install JQ, literally the letters JQ, and then curl if you haven't so already. So to begin, we're going to be running curl -s silence mode to silence the progress bar, then -g to send a GET request to the to Abuse IPDB's endpoint API. So I'm copying it just for the sake of time. You can copy it from the description, but this is the endpoint API. So we're next going to be using a backslash and then enter. So put a space, backslash, and enter to continue the command on a new line. This is the same command. Think of it as using semicolons, but we're writing on new lines for the sake of readability, because it does get pretty hard to read if we were to write this in one massive line. So we're then going to be securely adding our IP address to the URL. So we're going to put --data-URL encode, and then you're going to put your quotations, and then IP address like that. And then you're going to specify the IP address you want to add to the URL. For this sake, I'm going to be using 1.1.1.1, Cloudflare's public IP. I know this is a safe IP address, but this is for the sake of examples. We're going to backslash, come down again, and then we're going to add our API key, -h, quotation, key, colon, and then this is where you're going to put your API key. Now I'm going to be putting my actual API key from the website. How to get one will be in the description, a link to Abuse IPDB to get your own API. Now I'm going to be pasting it in from the website directly and then close it in with quotation marks. So what this API key is doing is just authenticating us, basically. Think of it as if you try to get in a club, you need your ID. So there you go, that's your ID. Basically saying, yeah, this is us, and we have the authority to scan these IPs. It is really important to say that this this API key that you're seeing before you is my actual API key as of now. This API key has been revoked before uploading this video and fully regenerated. This is just a demonstration to show functionality. Without actually using my API key, I wouldn't actually be able to show you this working. But it is important to never hard-code live APIs into your scripts. It's a major security risk. This is, again, purely for the sake of demonstration. This has been fully revoked and regenerated, so it poses no security risk to me. You're going to backslash again, and now we're going to be specifying the that we want a JSON response. So we're going to put in quotations, accept, colon, and then application/JSON. Okay, and it's just like that, and then you can press enter to run it. So this isn't an error, it is the output. It is just very long, so I'm going to come down to a new line. So this is all of the information that's been returned from Abuse IPDB. Now we need to parse this output because it's just a load of information just now. Sorry, what am I saying? Specifically for the score. So we're going to use up to get the same command back, and we're just going to pipe it into JQ-R, so we get the raw output. JQ is we're not using grep because JQ is specifically designed to parse a JSON. -R gives us the raw output, so we don't get any quotation marks around the number. And then we're going to be specifying the field that we want to take out. Now, the field that the score is in is called .data.abuse, if I can spell abuse correctly, abuse confidence score. Simple as that. And then you're going to close those quotations and then run it, and you'll see 0. That means this IP address is completely safe. It scored the lowest possible score that I can get, and it hasn't been. It probably means it hasn't been reported recently, or if at all. So now we're going to be creating a script that basically automates this. So we're going to be calling the script threat scanner.sh, and then we're going to be giving ourselves executable rights to the file so that we can run the script. Alright, so we're going to begin with a shebang to tell the system that we are using bash to run the script, and then we're going to check if so what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign the IP variable to the first argument given. Now I'm going to have to check first if the first argument has actually been passed. Now, what is the first argument? The first argument is the word after the script name. So if you were to write /threatscanner.sh, the next word, so if you were to write /threatscanner.sh and then put a space and then put pizza, that's the first argument. So IP will be assigned the word pizza. It obviously won't work, it's an example, but we need to check if one's actually been given. So we're going to use a simple if statement, use -c for 0 length to check if the $1, that is the first argument, is empty. So we're saying if the first argument is 0 length, meaning it's empty, then we're gonna print an error message saying error, no IP given. We're going to come in again, we're going to echo, and then we're going to tell them basically how to use it. So usage, and then we're going to put $0, which is just going to print the script name, and then we're going to put IP address. So they know when they run it, we need an IP address as well. And then we're going to put exit1, which ends the script. And then we're just going to close that if statement. So now we can come down and we're going to assign IP, the variable IP, to the first argument. So we've checked that the first argument is actually there, so we know it's there. So we're going to assign that first argument to the IP variable. Now we're going to get a new variable called score. We need to get our score using the exact thing we have just done in the terminal. So the command that we're going to be writing in these brackets is going to be held as score. So we're going to use curl -s-g again, and then we're going to put the API endpoint, and then we're going to be putting our backslash again, come down. We're going to add our IP address. But in this sense, we're not actually going to put an IP address, we're just going to put the IP variable in. Simple as that. So the IP variable gets substituted in, so we don't have to write a static IP. And we're going to put -h, and then we're going to put our key in here. Okay, let me get the key. And we're going to put the key in here, and then we're going to close these quotations. So again, just to be absolutely clear, this API key was revoked before publishing. In real world use, this would look something like export abuse API key and then put the real API key in. It probably wouldn't look like this in a real sense, or there would be a different module in the program that is holding the abuse API key, and it's getting called on, and you'd see maybe, for example, if I just come down, you might have something like -h and then key, and then you might have a variable like abuse API key, something like that. So it's calling on a variable from another module that you probably can't access, something like that, just for example. So we're going to continue now that we have our, we've sent our GET request to the API endpoint. We've encoded our IP address where we want to check onto this URL request. And then we've used our authentication key, API key, basically saying, yeah, this is us, we have the permission to do this. And then we're going to say that we want to take our response in JSON format. So again, application /JSON, and we're going to close that, and then we're going to come down again. And then we're going to we're going to pipe. So put in the pipe here just pipes all this whole command so far into JQ R, and for the same thing again, we want the abuse confidence score, so that's what we're going to be getting. And then we're going to put // empty. And we're going to close the quotations like that. Now, you might be thinking, well, what does empty do in this situation? So, what empty is doing is, if there's something that goes wrong with the API key, or a response, an exact score isn't given, this will return nothing. Now, this is important for the next step. So now we're going to check if we actually even have a score given. So we're going to put, again, if-e, and we're going to do pretty much the exact same thing we did for IP. Close this, then. So we're going to put a error message saying failed to retrieve score from abuse IPDB. And then we're going to put exit 1 to end the script on an error. Okay, and then we're going to close that if statement. So basically what we're saying is, if something goes wrong with this API and we get an error or something like that, // empty will basically mean that JQ-R outputs absolutely nothing, which means that we can then verify. So if something has went wrong and we'll say JQ has given nothing, then that means score will be nothing. So this if statement will then run and say failed to retrieve score from abuse IPDB, exit 1, and then we're going to end that if statement. But you could even go even further and say maybe why the score didn't go. You could say bad key, or poor connection, listing reasons perhaps why it didn't work. Now, for the next part, what we're going to be doing is we are going to be just making like a little ranking system. This is going to be super simple, super short, so we'll get straight into it. So we're going to put echo, and we're going to make a title for this. So we'll say abuse, do a few equal signs so we know it's like a cool title. Abuse confidence score for, and then we're going to substitute the IP that we scanned. Hang on. And then we're going to get the exact score. Okay, so what this is going to say, so say our IP is, again, 1.1.1.1, and our score is 0. This is going to say abuse confidence score. Hang on a minute, I need to finish that title. So it's going to say abuse confidence score for 1.1.1.1, 0. So we know we're cool. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put our colors in. A link to these are going to be in the description, but you don't actually need them. So these are just normal colors, so we can change the color of the terminal. So what we're going to be writing after this is a couple of statements that basically say, well, one if statement that's continued, that is going to, so we'll say, I'll take one out for example. So we're going to say, if the score is greater than 75, then we'll print a red alert that is actually in red. So what this is doing is, I believe it's called ANSI. It's storing ANSI color formats under red, yellow, green, and no color. And I'll explain it more when we get onto it. So we're going to start with the if statement, and we're going to lead with if score, and we're going to put -GT, which means greater than, and we're going to put 75, and then we're going to say, then echo, and now you need to put -E so the colors actually work, or else it'll literally print what we're going to write. And then to change the output color of the output color of the terminal, you just need to put like this. So that could be red, that could be yellow, it could be green, could be anything. But echo -E doesn't actually print this exact thing. It instead prints what we're going to write next, which will be red alert. This IP is very dangerous. Oh, that will print that in red. Now, we need to then put NC at the end in the same way. So that stands for no color. So what no color does is it resets the terminal back to normal black. And then we're going to use elif, and then we're going to basically just do the exact same thing again. So we're going to put in score. Hang on, I missed a space. Score greater than, and then this time we'll go for 50. Then echo -E, and for this time we'll use yellow. And for this one, we'll say warning. Suspicious IP. And then we're going to reset the terminal back to no color. Simple as that. So we're going to close that if statement just like that, and then we're going to come down on a new line, elif again, and now we'll say, so else if score is greater than 0, then, and we'll say yellow again. But it's not as severe, but obviously, yeah, above 0 isn't good. So we'll say risky IP. Keep an eye. Oh wow, what a voice crack! Keep an eye on this one, and then we'll simply just close that. All right, and then for the last one, we're just going to say else echo -e, and then we'll say, so if it's anything else, which would mean 0, we'll echo green. This IP is safe. And then we're going to reset the terminal back to no color. Then we're going to close the if statement, just like that. Control O to save, Control X. Yes, I thought I did save it. Anyway, now we're going to run it. So we're going to put /threat-scanner.sh, and we're not going to give a first argument just now. So you'll see that we get the error. So the script checked that there was no argument, saw that the first argument was nothing, and if it is, then it's going to give us an error message saying that we need to give an IP address. And for this example, we're going to use Cloudflare's public IP again. So this is going to return that this is safe in green, and you should see it running fine. But we had a little error, so we're going to have to open up the script and check out what that is. As you can see, there's like a little square bracket there, which shouldn't be there. That could be the problem. Control save, Control X, and we'll run it again. And you can see it ran fine. So you can see it has given us our title, abuse confidence score for Cloudflare's public IP, and it's 0, and it's output that this IP is safe. You can run this, you could maybe search up some dangerous IPs and you could run them to test a script to see if you can see the other outputs. You know, you'll get a red alert, you'll see yellow warnings or yellow risky IP. And yeah, but that's it for this. So I want to say thank you very much for watching, and I hope that you learned something. Make sure to check out the GitHub repo for the script, and remember to always handle API keys securely. If you're sharing scripts or projects like this, strip or revoke any sensitive data before uploading. In the next module, we'll expand this further. Well, in module 12, I'll touch on this stuff again. So yeah, feel free to check that out, but I'll see you in a bit. Bye bye.